My coworkers thought they were being funny. They sent me on a date I was meant to fail. But the moment I raised my hands and spoke in sign language, the entire room went silent. Because she did not smile. She stared at me like she had been waiting for years. You think you know humiliation. But you do not. Not until an entire room watches you walk into it. Smiling. Unaware. And already chosen as the joke. It started with laughter behind my back. Soft at first. Like something harmless. Office noise. Chairs moving. Coffee cups clinking. But then I heard my name. And the laughter grew sharper. More pointed. More personal. I should have turned around. I should have asked questions. But I kept walking. Because I trusted them. Because I thought they were my friends. Blind date, Mark said. A grin too wide. Eyes that avoided mine for a second too long. She is already there. He tapped my shoulder like I was heading into something great. Like I should be grateful. Everyone watched. Pretending not to watch. I felt it. The weight of their attention. Heavy. Sticky. Uncomfortable. The restaurant was dim. Warm lights hanging low. The smell of grilled meat and sweet sauce filled the air. Too rich. Too thick. It clung to my throat. My palms felt damp. My chest tight. I scanned the room. And then I saw her. She sat alone at a small table near the window. Back straight. Hands resting neatly in her lap. Calm. Still. Too still. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. Observing everything. But not reacting. I walked closer. Each step heavier than the last. Something felt wrong. Something I could not name yet. Hi, I said. My voice sounded too loud. Too sudden. She did not respond. I cleared my throat. Tried again. Hello. Nothing. Then she looked at me. Directly. Deeply. Her gaze locked onto mine. And for a moment, everything went silent. Not just the room. Inside me. She lifted her hand. And moved it. Not random. Not nervous. Precise. Intentional. My stomach dropped. Sign language. A cold realization crawled up my spine. Slow. Sharp. They knew. My coworkers knew. This was not a date. This was a setup. A performance. And I was the punchline. My mouth went dry. My heartbeat thudded in my ears. Loud. Relentless. She kept signing. Her expression soft. Expectant. Waiting for me to respond. The room behind me buzzed faintly. Forks. Laughter. Glasses touching. But it felt distant. Like I was underwater. I imagined them watching. Maybe from a distance. Maybe through messages. Waiting for me to fail. Waiting for the moment I embarrassed myself. My fingers trembled. Just slightly. Then I raised my hands. And I answered her. In sign language. Her eyes widened. A flicker of surprise. Then something else. Relief. She smiled. Not polite. Not forced. Real. The kind of smile that reaches the eyes. For a moment, the weight lifted. The tension cracked. We talked. Silently. But louder than any conversation in that room. She told me her name. Her work. Her love for quiet places. I told her mine. About learning sign language years ago. About forgetting how much it mattered. The world around us faded. Until I felt it again. That sensation. Being watched. I turned my head slowly. And there they were. Across the room. My coworkers. Not hiding anymore. Not laughing either. Just staring. Their expressions twisted. Confused. Uneasy. Because the joke had changed. Because I was not failing. Because something else was happening. Something they did not control. She followed my gaze. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Then she looked back at me. And signed something slower this time. More deliberate. I froze. Every muscle in my body tightened. Because what she signed next was not casual. Was not light. Was not part of a normal conversation. And suddenly, this was no longer a joke. This was something else entirely. Something I was not prepared for. Something that made the air feel colder. Something that made her smile fade. And her eyes turn sharp. As if she had been waiting. Not for a date. But for me. Continue where you stop. But for me. My hands hesitated in the air. Half-formed signs. Frozen. Her eyes did not leave mine. Unblinking. Steady. She repeated it. Slower. More precise. Do you remember me? A chill slid down my spine. The restaurant noise pressed in again. Too loud now. Fork scraping. A chair dragging harshly across the floor. Someone laughing too close. I swallowed. My throat felt tight. Dry. I signed back. Carefully. I think you are mistaken. Her head tilted. Just slightly. No smile now. No warmth. Only focus. Her fingers moved again. Sharp. Certain. You learned this because of me. My pulse spiked. A flicker. A memory. Something buried. Something I had not touched in years. A classroom. Bright lights. White walls. Hands moving. Faces blurred. I shook my head. Too quickly. No. But even as I signed it, I felt it cracking. She leaned forward. Closer. I could see the detail in her face now. The faint scar near her eyebrow. The slight tremor in her left hand. Familiar. Too familiar. You left. The words hit harder this time. Not spoken. But they landed. Heavy. My chest tightened. I do not know you. Lie. I felt it the moment my fingers stopped moving. Her jaw clenched. For a second, I thought she might stand up. But she stayed. Her hands moved again. Slower now. Waited. You promised you would stay. The restaurant faded again. My vision tunneled. A hospital corridor. Cold. Sterile. The smell of antiseptic. A girl sitting alone. Hands clenched. Eyes searching every passing face. Waiting. For someone who never came back. My breath caught. No. The sign broke halfway through. Her eyes softened for just a fraction of a second. Then hardened again. You do remember. Not a question. A statement. My fingers trembled harder now. I was young. Weak. Pathetic. Excuses. Her expression did not change. You were everything. The words cut deeper than anything shouted ever could. Silence wrapped around us. Heavy. Suffocating. I became aware of movement behind her. One of my coworkers shifting in his seat. Leaning forward. Trying to understand. They still thought this was entertainment. They had no idea. She noticed them too. Her gaze flicked past me. Then back. And something changed. Something darker. Her hands slowed again. Deliberate. Careful. You think this is coincidence? My stomach dropped. A cold, sinking weight. What do you mean? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Then she signed. I found you. The air left my lungs. Not suddenly. Slowly. Like something was pressing against my chest. How? The question felt small. Insignificant. But I needed it. Her answer came without hesitation. I never stopped looking. My vision blurred at the edges. Years. All those years. While I moved on. Forgot. Buried everything. She remembered. She searched. And now she was here. Right in front of me. Not by chance. Not by luck. By design. A faint vibration hit my pocket. My phone. I ignored it. She did not. Her eyes dropped briefly. Then returned to mine. Answer it. A command. Not a suggestion. My hands felt numb as I reached down. Pulled the phone out. The screen lit up. A message. From Mark. I opened it. And my blood ran cold. Bro, how do you know her? Another message appeared. We did not set this up. My heart skipped. Then slammed hard against my ribs. I looked up. Slowly. My coworkers were no longer amused. No smirks. No laughter. Only confusion. And something else. Fear. I turned back to her. My hands barely steady enough to move. You planned this. Her gaze held mine. Unwavering. Then she signed one final sentence. And the world seemed to tilt. I waited until you forgot me completely. A pause. Just long enough. For the meaning to settle. For the dread to fully bloom. Then her fingers moved again. Because now, Her expression sharpened. This hurts you more. Continue where you stop. My hands dropped. Heavy. Useless. A pressure built in my chest. Tight. Crushing. Around us, the restaurant kept moving. Waiters passing. Glasses clinking. A couple laughing too loudly near the bar. But none of it reached me. Only her. Only her eyes. Watching me. Measuring something. Judging something. You came here for revenge? The question felt fragile. Like it might break before it reached her. Her expression did not change. No. A single sign. Clear. Sharp. That answer was worse. My stomach twisted. Then why? She inhaled slowly. Her shoulders rose. Then fell. For a moment. I thought I saw it again. That softness. That girl from before. But it vanished. I wanted you to understand. The words settled between us. Cold. I shook my head. I do not understand anything. Truth. Desperate truth. Her hands moved again. Faster now. More force. You left me in silence. Each word hit harder. No voice. A pause. No explanation. Another pause. No goodbye. My chest tightened further. I was scared. Weak. Small. I did not know how to handle it. She stared at me. Long. Unblinking. Then. A faint, bitter smile. You handled it by disappearing. I flinched. Because she was right. Every memory rushed back now. The accident. The hospital. Her hearing gone. My promise to stay. To learn. To help. And then. My fear. My escape. My silence. I closed my eyes for a second. When I opened them, she was still there. Unmoved. Unchanged. I am sorry. The words felt too small. Too late. Too empty. Her gaze dropped to my hands. Then back to my face. You learned the language. Not praise. Not curiosity. Just observation. I nodded slightly. Yes. She leaned back in her chair. Creating distance. Physical. Emotional. Too late. A whisper without sound. The air between us felt colder. Heavier. I felt something shift again. That sensation. Something wrong. Not just between us. Around us. I glanced toward my coworkers. One of them stood up suddenly. Knocked his chair back. Too loud. People turned. Whispers spread. Confusion rippled through the room. What is happening? I signed it quickly. She did not look. Not at them. Only at me. You still do not see it. My heartbeat quickened. See what? Her fingers slowed again. Careful. Deliberate. The silence. A strange answer. My brow furrowed. This is not silence. I gestured around us. There is noise everywhere. She shook her head. No. Then she pointed. Not at the room. At me. At my ears. At my chest. And suddenly, something shifted. A detail I had ignored. A detail that should have been obvious. The clinking. The laughter. The movement. It felt distant. Too distant. Like it was behind a wall. My breath caught. What? I turned my head slowly. The waiter passed by. His mouth moving. But no sound reached me. None. My pulse exploded. I looked back at her. Panic rising fast now. What is happening? My hands shook violently. Her expression remained calm. Too calm. As if she had expected this moment. As if she had been waiting for it. Then she signed slowly. So I would not miss a single word. I wanted you to feel it. A pause. My heart pounded harder. Then the final words came. And everything inside me collapsed. Just for a few minutes. Her eyes locked into mine. Cold. Unforgiving. The world you left me in forever. Continue where you stop. My breath came in short bursts. Sharp. Uneven. I clutched the edge of the table. My fingers pressed hard against the wood. Grounding myself. But the silence stayed. Heavy. Absolute. I could see everything. The waiter speaking. A glass slipping from someone's hand. Shattering on the floor. Mouths opening. Reactions. Movement. But nothing reached me. Not a single sound. My chest tightened further. Panic clawed its way up. This is not possible. My hands moved too fast. Uncontrolled. Her gaze followed every motion. Calm. Observing. It is temporary. She signed it like a fact. Like she had done this before. How? The question tore out of me. My heartbeat thudded violently in my ears. Or maybe it did not. Maybe I only imagined it. Her fingers answered. Steady. Certain. You remember the hospital. A flash. Bright lights. Machines. Beeping. Sound. I tried to hold on to that memory. The noise. The chaos. But now, there was nothing. You volunteered. My eyes snapped back to her. No. Confusion twisted into fear. I did not. Her hand cut through the air, stopping me. You signed the form. The words hit like a blow. What form? My pulse raced faster. Her expression hardened. For the study, the world tilted again. Fragments surfaced. A clipboard. A doctor explaining something. Words I barely listened to. A rush to leave. I thought it was nothing. My hands trembled violently now. Her eyes narrowed slightly. It was everything. A cold wave spread through me. You knew. She nodded. Once. I was there. My stomach dropped. They told me someone volunteered. Her fingers slowed. They did not tell me it was you. A pause. I found out later. My vision blurred. So this. I gestured around. This is because of that? She held my gaze. Yes. The silence pressed harder now. Not just absence of sound. A presence. A weight. Something suffocating. I cannot breathe. My chest rose sharply. Faster. Her expression flickered. For the first time. Something like hesitation. Then it vanished. You are breathing. Cold. Direct. But you are not used to it. The words sank deep. Too deep. My fingers curled into fists. Desperation building. How long? I needed an answer. Her reply came without delay. A few minutes. A pause. Or longer. My heart slammed harder. What do you mean? Her gaze did not break. That depends. On what? The question burned inside me. But before I could ask, she leaned forward slightly, closing the distance again, and signed one final line. Slow. Clear. Impossible to misunderstand. On whether your body accepts the silence. My mind reeled. Accepts it? No. I shook my head. Hard. I do not want this. My hands moved faster. Desperate. Make it stop. For the first time, her expression changed again. Not anger. Not coldness. Something worse. Understanding. And that made it heavier. Because she knew exactly what I felt. She raised her hands. Slowly. And signed back. I did not want it either. The words crushed whatever was left of my control. My vision darkened at the edges. The room spinning slightly. People rushing now. I could see it. Panic spreading. Someone calling out. But still nothing. No sound. Ever. My knees weakened. I grabbed the table harder. But it slipped. Or maybe I did. The world tilted. Then dropped. As I fell. Into a silence. That no longer felt temporary. That no longer felt like a test. But something deeper. Something final. As the last thing I saw was her. Still sitting there. Watching me. Not with anger. Not with revenge. But with a quiet certainty. As if she already knew what was about to happen next. Continue where you stop. Darkness pressed in. Not black. Not empty. Just heavy. My body felt distant. Like it belonged somewhere else. Then. Light. Harsh. White. Blinding. My eyes snapped open. Ceiling. Flat. Familiar. Too familiar. The smell hit next. Sharp. Clean. Chemical. Hospital. My chest rose quickly. I rushed in. Too fast. Still no sound. I turned my head. Figures moved beside me. Doctors. Nurses. Mouths opening. Instructions. Urgency. Nothing reached me. A monitor flickered beside the bed. Lines jumping. Numbers changing. Silent. My heart pounded harder. I could feel it, but I could not hear it. Hands pressed against my shoulders, holding me down, keeping me still. I tried to speak. My lips moved. My throat strained. Nothing. No sound. Only breath. Panic surged again. Then, movement at the doorway. Her. Standing there. Still. Composed. Watching. She stepped inside slowly. Each step measured. The staff parted for her. Not questioning. Not stopping. Like they knew. Like she belonged here. My pulse spiked again. You brought me here? My hands moved weakly. She reached the side of the bed. Close. Too close. Then she answered. Yes. Simple. Certain. Why? The question trembled. She looked at me for a long moment. Then raised her hands. The test changed. My stomach twisted. What test? Her fingers moved slower now. Almost gentle. The one you signed for. Fragments slammed back again. The clipboard. The doctor. My careless signature. I thought it was temporary. Her gaze sharpened. It was. A pause. Until you disappeared. Cold spread through my chest. What does that mean? My hands shook again. She leaned slightly closer. Close enough that I could see every detail in her eyes. You left before the final stage. The words hit hard. They needed both participants. My breath caught. Participants. Plural. My mind raced. You and me. She confirmed it before I could ask. A hollow feeling opened inside me. What happens now? The question felt fragile. Like something already broken. Her expression softened again. But only slightly. The system completed it. My heart pounded harder. How? Her answer came without hesitation. I brought you back. The room felt colder. What did you do? My hands trembled violently now. Her fingers moved. Slow. Deliberate. I finished what you abandoned. A long pause. Then, I agreed to the final condition. My chest tightened again. What condition? For the first time. She hesitated. Just a fraction. Then she signed it. And everything inside me dropped. Only one of us keeps the silence. My vision blurred. No. The sign broke in my hands. That is not possible. Her eyes held mine. Unmoving. It is done. A ringing emptiness filled my head. Even without sound. It felt like something screaming. Who? I could barely form it. Who keeps it? The question hung between us. Heavy. Terrifying. Her gaze did not waver. Not even for a second. Then she lifted her hands one last time and answered. Slow. Clear. Final. You do. Continue where you stop. The words did not echo. They did not need to. They stayed. Heavy. Permanent. My hands fell to my sides. Numb. No anger came. No shouting. No protest. Only that silence. Thick. Endless. I stared at her. Searching. For doubt. For regret. For anything that could undo what she just said. There was none. Only certainty. You chose this. Her fingers moved again. I shook my head. Slowly. No. But even I could see it. The truth sitting underneath everything. The form. The signature. The promise. The disappearance. Choices. All of them. She watched me understand. Piece by piece. Then she stepped back. Creating space again. Distance. The kind that can never be crossed the same way again. What happens to you? My hands felt heavier now. Slower. She answered without hesitation. I get my world back. Something twisted inside my chest. Not pain. Not exactly. Something deeper. Something final. I looked at the machines beside me. The monitors. The wires. Still silent. Always silent. You can hear again. Not a question. A realization. She nodded. Yes. A pause. I heard the glass break. My eyes flickered. I remembered it. Seeing it shatter. But not hearing it. She did. Of course she did. The balance had shifted. Completely. Irreversibly. I swallowed hard. And me? The question felt small. Insignificant. She looked at me for a long moment. Then answered. You learn. The simplicity of it hit harder than anything else. No apology. No comfort. Just truth. You already started. Her gaze dropped briefly to my hands. Then back to my eyes. You understand more than you think. I let out a breath I could not hear. Slow. Heavy. My world had not ended. It had changed. Completely. And there was no way back. She turned then. Without another word. Walking toward the door. Each step steady. Certain. I watched her go. The person I abandoned. The person who found me. The person who took back what was hers. At the doorway she paused. Just for a moment. Without turning fully, she raised her hand slightly. A final sign. Small. Almost gentle. Live. Then she was gone. The door closed. I saw it. Felt it. But I did not hear it. And I never would. The room settled again. Movements continued. Machines blinked. Life carried on. Silent. I lifted my hand slowly. Hesitant. Then signed to no one. Testing it. Feeling it. Understanding it. For the first time. Not as something I learned. But as something I needed. And in that silence, that no longer felt temporary, I realized something that settled deeper than fear. This was not the end of the joke. This was the end of who I used to be. And the beginning of someone who finally understood what silence truly means. Continue where you stop. Days passed. I counted them by light. Morning brightness. Evening shadows. No alarms. No voices. No sound to mark time. Only movement. Nurses came and went. Their lips moved. Their hands rarely did. I watched carefully. Too carefully. Reading fragments. Guessing meanings. Sometimes I was right. Sometimes I was lost. That was the worst part. Not the silence. The uncertainty. A doctor stood beside my bed one morning. Older. Calm. He spoke slowly. Clearly. I caught pieces. Permanent. Adaptation. Rehabilitation. My chest tightened. Permanent. The word sat heavy. Like it had weight. I signed back. Clumsy. Imperfect. Will it come back? He paused. Then shook his head. No. Simple. Final. Something inside me settled then. Not peace. Not acceptance. Just stillness. Later, they moved me. Out of the room. Into a corridor. Bright lights. Long hallway. People passing. Stretchers rolling. All of it silent. I watched everything. Studied everything. A woman cried near the window. I saw her shoulders shake. Her mouth open wide. No sound. A man argued at the desk. Sharp gestures. Tight jaw. No sound. The world was loud. I could see it. I just could not hear it. They placed me in another room. Smaller. Quieter. Simpler. A mirror on the wall. I looked at myself. Long. Carefully. Same face. Same eyes. Different person. My hands lifted slowly. I signed again. My name is. I stopped. The name felt strange. Detached. Like it belonged to someone else. Days turned into routine. Lessons. Exercises. Repetition. A woman came each afternoon. Instructor. Patient. She signed clearly. Slowly. I followed. Again and again. Mistakes. Corrections. Progress. She smiled when I improved. Encouraging. Warm. But it never reached the place inside me that still felt unfinished. Because every night, when the lights dimmed, and the room grew still, I saw her again. At that table. In that restaurant. Looking at me. Not with anger. Not anymore. But with something far heavier. Closure. And I realized that she had already moved forward, while I was just beginning. One evening, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the room, the instructor handed me something. A small notebook. I opened it. Inside, A single page. With careful writing. Not mine. Hers. My fingers trembled slightly as I read. You always learned fast. A pause in the text. I knew you would survive this. My chest tightened. Another line. I did not do this to destroy you. I swallowed hard. I did this so you would never run again. The words hit deeper than anything before. Not revenge. Not punishment. Something else. Something sharper. A final line at the bottom. If you ever want to find me again. My breath slowed, then stilled. There will be no sound to guide you. I closed the notebook slowly, holding it tighter than I expected. Because for the first time, since everything changed, I understood something clearly. This silence was not just something taken from me. It was something I now had to live through, walk through, choose through, and somewhere beyond it. Beyond the quiet, beyond the absence. She was still there. Not waiting, not searching, just existing. In a world I had finally entered. One where, if I wanted to face her again, I would have to do it properly. Without fear. Without escape. Without sound. Continue where you stop. The next morning felt different. Not lighter. Not easier. But clearer. I sat on the edge of the bed. The notebook resting in my hands. Open. Unread again. I traced the words with my finger. Slow. Careful. As if they could change. As if they might say something else this time. They did not. I closed it. Firm. Decision settled in my chest. I stood up. The floor felt steady. Solid. Real. For the first time since waking up here, I was not reacting. I was choosing. The corridors stretched ahead. Bright. Endless. People moved around me. Busy. Focused. Silent. I walked through them. Not rushing. Not hesitating. Each step deliberate. The exit doors stood at the far end. Glass. Transparent. Beyond them, the world continued. Cars passing. People talking. Life happening. All of it unreachable through sound. But visible. Always visible. I pushed the door open. The outside air hit my face. Cool. Sharp. I inhaled deeply. No noise. Only the feeling of wind. Movement. I stepped out. The city stretched wide. Crowded streets. Bright signs. Flashing lights. Everything louder than ever. And I could not hear any of it. My chest tightened for a moment. Then steadied. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out the notebook. Opened it again. That last line stared back at me. There will be no sound to guide you. I looked up. At the moving world. At the chaos I could only see. Then I began to walk. Not toward a place I knew. Not toward a clear destination. But forward. Eyes sharper now. More aware. Watching faces. Reading lips. Noticing details I had ignored my entire life. A child laughing. I saw the rhythm in his body. The way his shoulders bounced. A man shouting into his phone. I saw tension in his jaw. The tight grip of his hand. A woman crossing the street. She glanced twice. Quick. Alert. Everything spoke. Without sound. And I was finally listening. Hours passed. Or maybe less. Time felt different now. Until I stopped. A familiar place. The restaurant. Same dim lights. Same window. My chest tightened again. Not fear. Not exactly. Something unresolved. I stepped inside. The smell hit again. Warm. Heavy. The same table stood near the window. Empty. I walked toward it slowly. Each step heavier. Then. Movement. A figure at the counter. Back turned. Still. Something about the posture. The stillness. Familiar. My pulse quickened. I moved closer. Careful. Quiet. As if sound mattered now. She turned. Our eyes met. No surprise. No shock. As if she knew I would come. As if this moment had already happened in her mind. I stopped a few steps away. Neither of us moved. The world around us continued. Unnoticed. Only this moment existed. I lifted my hands slowly. Steady this time. No hesitation. I did not come to take anything back. My fingers moved clearly. Precisely. I came because I understand now. Her gaze stayed locked on mine. Unreadable. I continued. I was weak. A pause. I ran. Another pause. I will not run again. The words settled between us. Heavy. Honest. She studied me. Long. Carefully. Looking for cracks. For doubt. Finding none. Then she stepped closer. Not closing the distance completely. But enough. Her hands rose. Slow. Measured. You found your way here. Not praise. Not approval. Acknowledgement. I nodded slightly. Yes. A long silence passed. Not empty this time. Full. Then she signed again. And something shifted. Something unexpected. Good. A single word. But it carried weight. More than forgiveness. More than anger. Something new. Something uncertain. She turned slightly. Gestured toward the empty chair. An invitation. Not forced. Not planned. A choice. I looked at the chair. Then back at her. And for the first time, since everything began, the silence did not feel like punishment. It felt like a space where something new could begin or break again, depending on what came next. Continue where you stop. I pulled the chair back. Slowly, carefully. The legs scraped against the floor. I saw it, felt the vibration through my hand, but heard nothing. I sat down, across from her, the same distance as before. But everything had changed. She did not sit immediately. She watched me first, measuring, confirming. Then she took her seat. No rush. No hesitation. The table between us felt smaller now. Or maybe we had stopped hiding behind it. A waiter approached. Polite smile. Routine gestures. He spoke. I read only fragments. Order. Drink. Ready. I glanced at her. She noticed. Of course she did. Her hands moved. Smooth. Effortless. You first. Simple. I turned back to the waiter. My hands lifted. Steady. I will have water. He froze. Just for a second. Then nodded. Slightly confused. But professional. He left. I exhaled slowly. Not from relief. From awareness. This was my world now. No shortcuts. No escape. She watched me the entire time. Not judging. Not helping. Just observing. You adapted quickly. Her fingers moved calmly. I shook my head. No. A pause. I am trying. She held my gaze. Then nodded once. Enough. Silence settled again. But it was different now. Not heavy. Not suffocating. Waiting. For something real. I leaned forward slightly. There is something I need to ask. My hands moved slower. More careful. She remained still. Listening. When you said you found me, I hesitated. How long? The question hung there. She did not answer immediately. Her eyes shifted for a moment. Not away. Just inward. Then she signed. Years. My chest tightened. How many? She answered. 7. The number hit harder than anything before. 7 years. Of silence. Of searching. Of remembering. While I had moved on. Forgotten. Lived normally. I swallowed. Why? The question felt different now. Not defensive. Not confused. Honest. Her expression changed slightly. Not softer. Not harder. Deeper. You were the last person who spoke to me. The words landed slowly. And then you became nothing. My hands stilled. I felt it. That gap. That emptiness I left behind. I needed to understand that silence. She continued. Not just outside. A pause. But inside. I looked down at my hands. Then back at her. I gave you that. Not a question. A realization. She nodded. Yes. Another silence. This one heavier. But not unbearable. Shared. The waiter returned. Placed the glass on the table. I watched the water ripple slightly. Tiny movements. Delicate. Still silent. I picked it up. Took a slow sip. Cold. Real. I set it down. I cannot undo what I did. My hands moved steadily. Her eyes followed every motion. But I can choose what I do now. A pause. I want to stay. The words felt solid. Grounded. No fear behind them. No escape hidden inside. She studied me again. Longer this time. Searching deeper. Testing something unspoken. Then she asked, "Why?" A simple question, but heavier than all the rest. I took a breath. Not to speak. To steady myself. Then I answered, "Because I finally understand what it means to be here." A pause. And I choose it. Her expression shifted again. Subtle. Almost invisible. But I saw it. A crack. Not in strength. In certainty. She looked at the table. Just for a moment. Then back at me. Her hands rose. Slower than before. As if this answer mattered more. "You do not know what that choice costs." The warning sat between us. Clear. I nodded. Yes. A pause. I do now. Silence again. But this time, it stretched longer. Not empty. Not tense. Something forming. Something fragile. Then, she leaned back slightly. Not away. Not distant. Just enough. And for the first time, since we sat down, her shoulders relaxed. Just a little. Her hands moved once more. Carefully. This time. A pause. Her eyes locked into mine. "Do not disappear. Continue where you stop." The words stayed between us. Clear. Unavoidable. I held her gaze. Did not look away. I will not. My hands moved without hesitation. No trembling now. She watched closely, as if weighing truth against memory. Then she gave a small nod. Not trust. Not yet. But something that allowed this moment to continue. Time passed without measure. We sat there, facing each other. No rush. No need to fill the space. For the first time, silence felt like something we both understood. The waiter returned again. Placed another glass. Set down a small plate. I watched his hands. The rhythm. The pattern. Everything was information now. Everything mattered. She noticed where my eyes followed. The details I tracked. A faint shift in her expression. Almost approval. "You are learning to see." I nodded. Yes. A pause. I never really did before. Her gaze softened. Just slightly. Then she asked something unexpected. "Do you miss it?" I knew what she meant. Sound. The world I used to live in. I looked around the room. People talking. Laughing. Arguing. All of it visible. None of it audible. I thought about it. Carefully. Then I answered. Yes. Honest. A pause. But I do not miss who I was with it. Her eyes held mine. Searching again. Then she leaned forward slightly. What do you hear now? The question felt strange. Almost impossible. I exhaled slowly. Then answered. Myself. A pause. And you. Something changed then. Small. But real. The tension between us loosened. Not gone. But no longer cutting. She sat back again. The space between us shifted. No longer distance. Something else. Possibility. Outside the light dimmed. Evening settling in. Inside, the restaurant grew busier. More movement. More noise I could not hear. But I could see it all. And I was not lost in it anymore. I looked back at her. There is something else. My hands moved slower now. Careful. She focused immediately. If I stay. A pause. I need to do it right. She did not interrupt. I need to learn everything. Another pause. Not just for me. My fingers tightened slightly. For the people I failed. The words carried weight. Not just for her. For all of it. She studied me again. Long. Deep. Then she asked quietly. Are you ready for that? A simple question. But this time, I did not hesitate. Yes. The answer landed firm. No doubt. No fear. She held my gaze for a few seconds longer. Then, a small exhale. Not visible to most. But I saw it. And it mattered. She reached for her glass, took a sip, set it down. Then her hands moved again. This will not be easy. I nodded. I know. Another pause. And I will not make it easier for you. There it was. The truth. Not cruelty. Not punishment. Reality. I do not want easy. My reply came steady. She looked at me. Really looked. Then, for the first time, a real smile. Not full. Not bright. But real. And in that moment, I understood something deeper. This was not forgiveness. Not yet. This was something harder. Something that demanded more. A second chance. That had to be earned. Every single day. Without sound. Without escape. Only presence. Only choice. Only staying. Continue where you stop. We stayed. Long after the table should have been cleared. Long after the crowd began to thin. The lights dimmed further. Shadows stretched across the floor. Still, we did not move. Not because there was more to say, but because leaving felt different now. Before, I would have stood up first. Made an excuse. Escaped the weight of it. Now I waited. She noticed. Of course she did. You are thinking too much. A quiet observation in her hands. I almost smiled. Yes. A pause. I used to think too little. Her eyes held mine, measuring the truth in that. Then she nodded. Fair. The waiter approached again. Careful this time. Watching us both. He placed the bill gently on the table. Almost hesitant. I reached for it, but she moved at the same time. Our hands stopped. Just above the paper. A brief moment. Still. Then she pulled back slightly. Your choice. Not about money. Not really. I understood. I took the bill. Not to prove something. Not to take control. Just to act. To not hesitate. She watched. Quietly. I paid. Simple. Complete. When I looked up again, she was already standing. Ready. I followed. We walked toward the exit together. Side by side. Not touching. Not distant. Balanced. The door opened. Cool air brushed against my face again. Night had settled. The city lights brighter now. Cars moved past. Headlights cutting through the dark. Still silent. We stopped just outside. For a moment. Neither of us moved. The space between us felt different now. Not fragile. Not tense. Undefined. She turned slightly toward me. This is where it changes. Her hands moved slowly. I nodded. I know. A pause. No more returning to before. I held her gaze. There is no before. The words felt true. Completely. She studied me again. Long. Careful. Then she asked something unexpected. Where will you go now? The question hung there. For the first time, since all of this began, I did not have an answer ready. I looked out at the city, the movement, the life, then back at her. I do not know. Honest. A pause. But I will not disappear. Her expression shifted slightly. That mattered. Then she stepped back, creating distance again. Not rejection. Not retreat. Space. Needed space. For now. Her hands moved one last time. Walk. A simple instruction, but heavy with meaning. I nodded. Yes. She turned then, not looking back. Not this time. And walked into the night. Steady. Certain. I stood there, watching her disappear into the moving crowd. But this time, it did not feel like losing her again. Because now, I knew where I stood. I turned in the opposite direction. Not following. Not chasing. Walking. Just as she said. Step by step. Through the silent city. Learning it. Reading it. Understanding it. People passed me. Faces. Expressions. Stories I could now see more clearly than ever. And with every step, something inside me settled further. Not comfort. Not ease. But purpose. Then, a flicker. Across the street. A reflection in a dark window. Myself. Walking. Different posture. Different presence. I stopped. Stared at that reflection. For a long moment. Then slowly, I raised my hand. Signed to that version of me. You stay. A promise. Not to her. Not anymore. To myself. And as I lowered my hand and stepped forward again into a world that would never make a sound for me, I realized something that settled deeper than everything before. Silence does not take you away from the world. It forces you to finally face it. Continue where you stop. The nights grew longer. Not in time. In awareness. Every step carried detail now. Every movement meant something. I began to notice patterns. Small things. Things I had ignored my entire life. The way people avoided eye contact when they lied. The way shoulders tensed before anger. The way hands hesitated before reaching out. The world spoke constantly. I was only now learning its language. Days passed. I stopped counting. Routine formed. Morning light through the window. Exercises. Practice. Observation. Then walking. Always walking. Through streets. Through crowds. Through silence that was no longer empty. I learned to read faster. To understand without guessing. To respond without fear. Mistakes still came. Confusion still hit. But I stayed. That mattered more than anything. One afternoon, while crossing a busy street, I saw something that pulled me out of that rhythm. A small group gathered near the corner. Tight. Focused. A child stood in the center. Crying. I saw the tears. The shaking shoulders. People spoke to him. Fast. Concerned. He did not respond. Not to their voices. Only to their movement. Lost. Alone. Even in the middle of everyone. I felt it immediately. That distance. That confusion. That silence. I stepped closer. Careful. Slow. The crowd shifted slightly. Some noticed me. Most did not. I crouched in front of the child. He looked at me. Eyes wide. Wet. Searching. I raised my hands. Slow. Clear. Are you okay? His expression froze. Then changed. Recognition. Relief. Immediate. He nodded quickly. Tears still falling. But something else now. Connection. Where are your parents? He signed back. Small hands. Unsteady. Lost. The word hit hard. I nodded. Steady. We will find them. He watched my hands closely. Trust forming. Around us. People still spoke. Still tried to help. But now, there was a bridge. A way through. I stood. Took his hand gently. Then turned to the crowd. My hands moved. He is deaf. Some understood. Others did not. But one woman stepped forward. Alert. Focused. She signed back. Fluent. Clear. Relief hit me. Not mine. His. Together. We began to search. Not with noise. Not with shouting. With attention. With movement. With awareness. Minutes passed. Or maybe more. Then, a figure pushing through the crowd. Desperate. Panicked. A woman. Eyes scanning wildly. The child saw her first. His grip tightened around my hand. Then he let go. Ran. Straight to her. She dropped to her knees. Pulled him close. Tight. Her mouth moved rapidly. Words I could not hear. But I saw everything. Relief. Fear. Love. All of it loud in a way I finally understood. She looked up at me. Eyes filled with something deep. Gratitude. She signed. Thank you. Simple. Real. I nodded. You are welcome. They stayed together. Holding on. Not letting go. I stepped back. Quietly. No need to stay. No need to explain. As I turned to leave, the city stretched ahead again. Busy. Alive. Silent. But this time, something felt different. Not inside the world. Inside me. Because for the first time, since everything changed, the silence did not feel like something I lost. It felt like something I could give. Something that connected. Something that mattered. And as I walked forward, through a world that would never speak to me again, I realized something deeper than anything before. I was no longer learning how to survive in silence. I was learning how to live in it. Continue where you stop. That night, I did not go back to the same route. Not the same streets. Not the same patterns. I turned where I had never turned before. Walked where I had never walked. Not lost. Choosing. The city shifted as I moved deeper. Fewer lights. Narrower roads. Faces less hurried. More guarded. I noticed it immediately. The difference. The tension in people's shoulders. The way eyes lingered longer. This place spoke too. Just differently. I kept walking, step by step, until I saw it. A small building. Old. Faded sign above the door. The glass window reflected the street. Dim. Still. Inside. Movement. Hands. Fast. Expressive. Alive. My chest tightened slightly. I stepped closer. Careful. And looked through the glass. A group of people stood inside. Different ages. Different faces. All signing. All connected. No voices. No sound. Yet it felt louder than anything I had ever known. A woman laughed. I saw it in her shoulders. In the way her head tilted back. A man argued. Sharp movements. Quick gestures. Another person listened. Focused. Still. Every emotion visible. Every word seen. I stood there. Watching. Something pulled at me. Not curiosity. Not hesitation. Recognition. I pushed the door open. The movement caught attention immediately. Heads turned. Eyes shifted toward me. The room stilled. Not silent. It already was. But aware. I stepped inside. For a moment. I felt it again. That old feeling. Being out of place. Being seen. But not known. I lifted my hands. Slow. My name is. I paused. Then continued. I am learning. The words felt honest. Simple. The tension in the room shifted. Not gone. But softened. A man stepped forward. Older. Steady gaze. He signed. Everyone here is learning. A faint warmth spread through my chest. Not comfort. But something close. He gestured around. Stay. A simple invitation. No pressure. No expectation. I nodded. Yes. Time moved differently inside that room. Conversations flowed. Hands moved constantly. Expressions shifted like waves. I followed. Slow at first. Then faster. Someone corrected me. Another encouraged me. Mistakes became part of the rhythm. Not failures. Steps. At some point, I forgot to feel out of place. At some point, I just was part of it. Then, a movement near the doorway. Subtle, but it pulled my attention immediately. A familiar presence. I turned, and there she was, standing just inside the entrance. Watching, not surprised, not uncertain, as if she had always known. This is where I would end up. Our eyes met. No words. No signs yet. Just understanding. She stepped further in. The others noticed her. Acknowledged her. She belonged here. Of course she did. I stood still. Not frozen. Not unsure. Waiting. She moved closer. Stopped in front of me. Her gaze steady. Then her hands rose. You found your way. A simple statement. I nodded. Yes. A pause. I kept walking. Her eyes held mine for a moment longer. Then, something changed. Not a smile. Not exactly. But something lighter. She glanced around the room. At the people. At the movement. Then back at me. You are not alone anymore. The words settled deep. Not heavy. Not painful. Grounding. Real. I looked around too. At the conversations. At the connections. At the world I had stepped into. And for the first time, since everything began, I understood something clearly. Silence was never empty. It was full. Of people. Of meaning. Of life. I looked back at her. And this time, there was no distance between us. That felt impossible to cross. Only space. That could be shared. Or closed. Depending on what we chose next. Continue where you stop. We stood there for a moment. Not moving. Not speaking. But everything between us moving. The room continued around us. Hands flashing. Faces alive with expression. Connections forming and breaking and forming again. And for the first time, we were not outside of it. We were inside it. Together. She stepped slightly to the side. Not away. Making space beside her. An invitation without asking. I moved. Closed that space. Now we stood next to each other. Not across. Not separated by a table. Side by side. The difference felt bigger than anything we had said. A young man approached us. Energetic. Curious eyes. He signed quickly. You are new. I nodded. Yes. He looked at her. Then back at me. You brought him. She shook her head. No. A pause. He found his way. The young man smiled. Wide. Approving. Good. He moved on. Pulled into another conversation. The moment passed. But something lingered. Recognition. Not just from her. From the world around us. I turned slightly toward her. There is something I still do not understand. My hands moved carefully. She focused immediately. What? I hesitated. Then asked. Why give me a way back? The question hung between us. Honest. Raw. She did not answer right away. Her gaze shifted. Not avoiding. Thinking. Then her hands rose. If I wanted you gone. A pause. I would have left you there. The hospital flashed in my mind. The bed. The silence. She continued. But that would change nothing. Another pause. You would still be the same person. The words hit quietly. Deeply. And I would still carry it. Her fingers slowed slightly. The past does not disappear when people do. I felt that. Every part of it. She looked at me again. This way. A small pause. Something changes. Silence settled between us again. But now it was full of meaning. Not absence. Transformation. I nodded slowly. I understand. And I did. Not completely. Not perfectly. But enough. Around us. The room continued to move. Laughter. Debates. Stories told in hands and eyes. And we stood there. No longer defined by what happened before, but by what we were choosing now. She shifted slightly, then signed something new. Show me. I frowned slightly. What? Her eyes held mine. That you can stay. A challenge. Not cruel. Not harsh. Real. I took a breath, then turned. Not away from her, but toward the room. Toward the people. The conversations. The movement. I stepped forward. Into it. Joined a group nearby. Listened. Watched. Responded. Slow at first. Then stronger. Mistakes came. Corrections followed. But I did not step back. I did not retreat. I stayed. Minutes passed. Or maybe longer. Then I felt it. Her presence behind me. Not watching from a distance anymore. Closer. Part of the same space. When I turned again, she was there. Not testing. Not measuring. Just there. And in her eyes, for the first time, there was something that had not existed before. Not anger. Not closure. Something quieter. Something harder to earn. Trust. Not complete. Not certain. But real enough to begin. And in that moment, surrounded by a world that spoke without sound, I realized something that settled deeper than everything before. This was never about losing my voice. It was about finally learning how to be heard. Continue where you stop. The room moved around us. Alive. Constant. Unfiltered. And for once, I was not trying to catch up to it. I was part of it. I turned back to the group. Followed the flow. Answered when needed. Paused when unsure. No pressure to be perfect. Only to be present. That was new. At some point, someone told a story. I saw it unfold in their hands. In their face. In the rhythm of their body. Everyone leaned in. Focused. Engaged. I followed. Carefully. And when I understood it, not just the words, but the feeling behind them, something shifted again. I reacted. Naturally. Without thinking. A small smile. A quick response. The group responded back. Seamlessly. No pause. No confusion. Just continuation. I felt it then. Not learning. Not trying. Belonging. Behind me. She moved closer. Not interrupting. Not pulling me away. Just standing near. Present in the same space. That mattered more than anything she could have said. Time passed. Eventually, the energy in the room softened. People began to leave. Small groups breaking apart. Goodbyes exchanged in quick, familiar gestures. The lights dimmed slightly. I stepped back. Let the moment settle. Then turned to her. We stayed. My hands moved slower now. Grounded. She nodded. Yes. A pause. You did. Not we. You. I understood why. This was mine to carry. To prove. To live. She looked around the room. Then back at me. This is not the end. Of course it was not. I nodded. I know. A pause. It is the beginning. She held my gaze. And for a brief moment, that same quiet recognition passed between us. The kind that does not need explanation. Because both sides already understand. She stepped toward the door. I followed. This time. Not because I was unsure, but because I chose to walk beside her. We stepped outside together. The night air felt different now. Not sharp. Not foreign. Familiar. The city stretched ahead again. Lights. Movement. Silent. But no longer distant. We stopped near the sidewalk. Neither of us rushed to leave. Then she turned slightly toward me. One more thing. I focused. Do not make this about me. The words landed carefully. This is your life now. A pause. Live it fully. I nodded slowly. I will. No hesitation. No doubt. She studied me one last time. Then. A small nod. Enough. She stepped back. Then turned. And began to walk away. Not disappearing this time. Just leaving. Like someone who knew. They would be seen again. Not lost. Not chased. Just gone for now. I watched her for a moment. Then turned in my own direction. Not opposite. Not following. Just my own path. The city opened in front of me. Wide. Endless. Silent. And I stepped forward into it. Not as someone who had lost something. Not as someone trying to get it back. But as someone who had finally learned how to exist. Without needing to hear the world. To understand it. Continue where you stop. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into something that no longer needed counting. I built a rhythm. Not forced. Not fragile. Real. Mornings began with stillness. Light filtering through the window. Soft. Gradual. I would sit. Hands resting. Breathing steady. Not listening. Observing. The world outside moved early. People rushing. Cars passing. Signals changing. All silent. All clear. I learned to read the day before stepping into it. Patterns. Intentions. Energy. Then I moved. Work came slowly. Different from before. Completely. No phones. No calls. No noise. Only presence. Only focus. I found a place that needed that. A small center. Quiet. Intentional. People came there to learn. To connect. To understand. Not just language, but each other. At first, I was just another learner. Watching. Absorbing. Then, one day, a familiar situation. A new face. Nervous. Lost. Hands unsure. Eyes searching. I saw myself. Not from before. From the beginning. I stepped closer. Slow. Non-threatening. Raised my hands. You are okay. Simple. The person hesitated. Then nodded slightly. I stayed. Not fixing. Not correcting. Just staying. And slowly, they found their rhythm. That moment stayed with me. Because I understood something deeper then. This was not about replacing what I lost. It was about becoming something I had never been. Present. Later that evening, I found myself walking again. Same city. Same movement. Different eyes. I passed the restaurant. Did not stop this time. Did not need to. Some places hold memories. Others release them. This one had done both. I kept walking, further than usual, until I reached a quiet street. Less crowded. Less demanding. And there, a familiar figure, standing near a corner. Still, observing. Her. She had not changed. Not really. Or maybe she had. In ways I could now finally see. I approached. Not slowly. Not cautiously. Naturally. She noticed. Of course she did. Turned before I reached her. Our eyes met. No surprise. Only recognition. You kept walking. Her hands moved calmly. I nodded. Yes. A pause. I did not stop. Her gaze held mine. Then she asked quietly, "Did you find what you were looking for?" I thought about it. Not long. Because the answer was already there. No. A small pause. I found something better. Her eyes shifted slightly. Curious. What? I answered. Myself. The words settled between us. Not heavy. Not dramatic. True. She watched me carefully. Then, a slow exhale. Not relief. Not surprise. Acceptance. A different kind. She stepped closer. Not testing now. Not measuring. Just standing within the same space. You changed. A statement. I nodded. Yes. A pause. I had to. She studied me one last time. Then something subtle happened. The distance that once felt impossible no longer existed. Not because it disappeared, but because it no longer mattered. She raised her hand slightly. Not a full sign. Just a small movement. A quiet acknowledgement. Then she turned and began to walk again. Not away. Not from me. Just forward. And this time, without thinking, without hesitation, I stepped beside her, matching her pace. Not leading. Not following. Walking together. Through a world that no longer needed sound to be understood. Write the ending section/episode to gracefully end the story. We walked for a long time. Not toward anything specific. Not away from anything either. The city moved around us. Lights shifting. People passing. Moments happening and disappearing. And we stayed in it. Side by side. No need to fill the silence. No need to explain what had already been lived. At some point, we reached the edge of the street. A quieter place. Less movement. More space. We stopped. Not planned. Just a natural. She looked ahead. Then at me. Her expression was calm. Steady. No weight of the past pressing between us anymore. Only what was here. No. This is enough. Her hands moved slowly. I understood immediately. Not an ending forced. Not something taken away. A boundary. A completion. I nodded. Yes. Because it was. Everything that needed to happen had happened. Everything that needed to change had changed. We stood there, in that quiet space, where nothing else needed to be proven. No promises. No apologies. No unfinished words. Only truth. She took a step back. Not distant. Just separate. As we were meant to be. Then she signed one last time. Take care of your silence. The words settled deeper than anything before. Not a warning. Not advice. A recognition. I answered. I will. And I meant it. She held my gaze for a moment longer. Then, a small, real smile. The kind that does not ask for anything in return. Then she turned and walked away. This time, there was no weight in watching her go. No fear of losing something. No need to follow. Because nothing was being taken anymore. Only paths separating. The way they should. I stood there for a moment. Letting it settle. The quiet. The space. The truth of it all. Then I turned. Faced my own direction. And walked. Not into the past. Not chasing what was gone. Forward. The city opened again. Alive. Endless. Silent. But no longer something to survive. Something to live in. Something to understand. As I moved through it, I noticed everything. A man helping someone cross the street. A child reaching for their parent's hand. Two strangers laughing over something small. All of it speaking. All of it clear. And for the first time, I did not feel like I was missing anything. Because I was not. I raised my hand slightly. Not to anyone. Not for anyone. Just a quiet, personal sign. A reminder. I am here. The movement was small, but it held everything. And as I lowered my hand and continued walking through a world that would never make a sound for me again, I understood the final truth. Silence was never the absence of life. It was the place where I finally learned how to truly live.